So if anybody knows me, knows I have a problem with following instructions, particularly my own instructions with how I wanted to start this. So I figured, since Dan Pink is going to talk about the scientific secrets of perfect timing, and then he talked about peak trough recovery, I'm going to steal his thunder today. So we are absolutely in a trough, which means the energy is going to get a little low here, and so I figured, why don't we pick things up a little bit. So everybody stand up for a quick second. So I'm not really great at yoga, so we're not going to do any crazy yoga poses, but I'm going to channel my inner Dr. J. So my inner Dr. J would tell me to everybody reach to the right and up as far as you can. Take a deep breath. Wave your hands in the sky. You can wave them from side to side. Then you go all the way to the left. And then go all the way back down. Yes, that feels good. Now, do me a quick favor and give 3 high fives or hugs to somebody you don't know. Go ahead and go. All right. So, I'm going to ask you guys, if you take a little journey with me. So of all the things that we've talked about today, being funny and Facebook and sales and marketing and some amazing talks today, this is going to be the most dark, the most devastatingly destructive. This is going to be demoralizing. This is going to be demotivational and not inspiring at all. So if you want to check out the 201 later, we're going to kind of hit the opposite side of that later. But for the next 10 minutes, what I want to take you through is a real phenomenon we see called the Sunday Scaries. Now, I know I'm in a room full of high achievers. I know I'm in a room full of entrepreneurs and executives who make their own way. You're all determinists, apparently, according to some of the other DNA talk that we had earlier today. But what I will tell you is, this is a real thing. I have been studying the space between things for the last 17 years. So whether it's the space between one-on-ones and team meetings and performance reviews, whether it's the space between your organization and your customers, it's that space. It's that chasm. And something popped up for me recently, which is seeing the space between Sunday and Monday. Seeing the space between people waking up, feeling less than, not more than. People going from freedom on the weekends to control. And you might say, well, Joe, that's like employees. We've already heard it before. Gallup's famous poll, 70% of the American workforce is not engaged. What I'm going to call bullshit. Because I know throughout my executive or my entrepreneurial career, there have been times, absolute times, that I have dreaded Monday. Because I'm doing things I don't want to be doing. And we live in a world of possibilities. And the second that you're not doing the things that light you up will drive us fucking nuts. How many people know what I'm talking about? And so whether you are flying high, whether you just sold your company, it really doesn't matter to me. This, to me, is the state of how some people feel on Mondays. And this isn't about a rah-rah motivational session. I'm going to talk about actual data. So if you don't believe in climate change, you might as well leave now. I'm going to talk about common sense principles that aren't so common. So if you voted for Trump, you might also want to leave now. I'm dead serious. We're going to talk about the thing that we spend, most of us, a third of our waking time, which is awake and alive at work. And to me, the sad thing is we're not talking about that. So what I can do in the next 10 minutes is set the stage. What I can't do is give you all the mechanics, the techs, the technology, or the tools that we've seen. That'll be in the 201. So you might be sitting again saying, again, this doesn't apply to me. So if it doesn't apply to you, like Ian asked earlier before so eloquently, I'll say this. I want you to think about a person in your life that this applies to the most. Think about someone that you know absolutely bitches, whines, and complains about what they do, and it is sapping them from the inside out. I'm going to show you the biochemistry of what happens to your body and how people are making really shitty decisions because of it, and it's creating all of this mess that we have in the world today. So what I want you to do is write down that person's name, the first one that came to you, that struggles with this phenomena, this space, the most, because we're all going to leave here today, and we are going to absolutely help this person think differently. How many people would be excited for that? Say yes. Yes. That was absolutely weak. All right, you got that person down. So quickly, the state of the world, I don't need to tell you anything. This is Washington, D.C., so you're pretty enlightened, if you will. But when I give this talk, some people don't know this still. The world is pretty sad. Even though it's amazing, it's sad. 1 in 3 children in this country still live below the poverty line. Like, this is near and dear to my heart. So I grew up hungry. I grew up in East Baltimore. I grew up living on people's couches. I know what it's like to actually be so hungry you're willing to do anything. In fact, at 13, I started selling drugs, and for the next 5 years, like, I know what it's like to put heroin and cocaine into a bag. Because when you're hungry, you'll do just about anything you can to make that happen. I also know what it's like to be scared of things. See, up here, it's kind of an interesting thing that we as Americans are more scared of our corrupt government officials, as of a survey done last year, than we are of nuclear war from North Korea. That may have something to do with the current president, who knows? But what I would say is, if you don't think this stuff bleeds into your work, like this whole work-life balance bullshit, this whole leave your personal stuff at home, like, don't tell me for a second that some of the cultural things that you're dealing with don't have to do with what's happening at home for people. And this is real. And beyond that, it's affecting us physically. We're the most obese nation on the planet. We can't put the sugar down. We're addicted to just about everything because we haven't dealt with our trauma. We haven't gotten real. And I know this because I didn't get real until 2009. Until 2009, I was a fake. I was a fraud. I never told people my story. And it was eating me from the inside out. It also didn't hurt that I lost all my money in 2008, way before everybody else did. But I can tell you that this stuff is real. Not only that, we know mental illness is now all the rage because of the school shootings, but more than 40 million people live with this real thing. So when I said we were going to talk about like the dark stuff, yeah, we're going to talk about the hard stuff, the dark stuff, the real stuff, because to me, it's the conversation not happening. Now for me, I've always had on my side perspective. So I get a chance now to, yes, work with really cool companies, and I've been really, really fortunate to have worked with amazing people inside our organization at Shift. But to me, perspective is everything. If I could give one pill to the American or the global population, I know Gary Vaynerchuk says it's self-awareness. I think it's even before that, it's perspective. It's realizing that we're actually all the same thing. We're everything, we're anything, and we're nothing. But see, that sounds sort of too foo-foo. So I still need some inspiration from time to time, because of my good friend, Yannick Silver here. I had a chance to meet this guy is the founder of TED. He's written 90 books. He's 82 years old. Recently, 30 days ago, I was having some Sunday scaries. No bullshit. Like, I'm trying to put on an event like this, so I've asked Derek to give me some coaching after this is over, because how many people feel like this has been kind of amazing so far? I'm going to give you another chance to do that later, so please do a better job than that. But this guy is like my muse. He's been a mentor to me. He's been an advisor to me. And what I love to ask him are really deep questions. And so this particular time, I asked him a bunch of questions. He's like, just shut up. He's sort of a little grumpy at times. And he said to me, have you ever watched Space Odyssey 2001? Has anybody ever watched this? Okay, I haven't. I have no idea like what this was all about. But basically, it's the questions and answers to the universe. I won't bore you with this. It's how we've evolved as human beings. And it's more or less, when you think about this quote, Winston Churchill said, we shape buildings and then they shape us. Well, I think it's we shift work and then work shifts us. Like, if you work with people you hate, you don't like, if you work with customers that you don't believe in, like, it is 2018. No one has to do anything they don't want to do, but yet we still create this environment for us. So to me, the answer is really threefold. The first is the brain in your head has about 1 billion neurons-ish. Doc, is that about right? 200 billion, so I got that wrong already. That's right. It's always great to have an expert in the field, no matter who you're talking about up on stage. And so what I've learned, don't correct me if I'm wrong by the way, what I've learned about the brain in the head is it's like a spotlight. What it's trying to determine is, should I do this or should I do that? And what I've also learned about the brain, just personally, is when you think about the most traumatic things that have happened in your life, we generally have a sense that they've happened to us. What I'm here to tell you, they've happened for you. Now, you may have heard this before, but we're actually going to get to work here today. So what I want you to think about for the next, 10 seconds is think about a moment in your life that was a turning point. Think about how often you may have used that as an excuse. My big excuse, my big self-deprecating excuse was, I got a 400 on my verbal on my SAT. Derek, I beat you. Mine was lower. And so I never wanted to write a book because that was the case. Now, woe is me. This is certainly a first-class, first-world problem. But what I'm saying to you is this. What is that thing for you that you have yet to say has actually been an asset? I went to 5 schools in 5 years. I used to think, oh, poor me. Well, guess what? Took a shy, introverted kid, and I learned how to connect with people. You know, my mom used to make me read lines with her in the middle of the living room. I was like, oh, I hate this. But now look, pretty freaking cool. There's another heart, though, that you have that's sitting in, or another brain in your heart. I'm going to say it's 40 million. I don't care what the doc says. And in the heart, to me, what I've learned in my next book, I talk a lot about this, is that this is our connection with others. When I ask you to hug people, you will feel better because of that. How many people get that? Say, ah. And so to me, it's not even that. It's a lot of the things that I talked about before. So cadre, a lot of you heard this riff before, but how many of us say things like, I have to do certain things? Like, I have to. I know back 5 years ago when my wife had our second, I used to, by the way, say we had our second, and I was kindly corrected. We had nothing, she had everything. But when she had her second, I'm on a book tour, I'm flying high, I'm hitting the New York Times, everything's great. I'd come back and be like, I don't have time to do this bath time thing. She pulled me aside like she would. She's my best fan and my worst critic. And she said, you're a really shitty father. She said, with our first, you were always like, first to grab the poopy diaper, first to grab bath time. You never said you had to do anything. And so I want you to think about all the things that you gave up to be here today. All the things that you're going to tell yourself all this bullshit tomorrow, because syntax matters. We already know this. Like, the neuroscience is out. When you change your syntax, you change your words, it changes the way you frame things. So instead of saying those things that you have to do tomorrow or have to's, what if you said you get to? Like, what if you said you get to meet with your team? How many times have you heard an executive that worked for you, a COO, or maybe your board, that were like, oh, here we go again, I have to hear all this bullshit, and you're like, no. To sit with an employee for their performance review is a fucking privilege, because they've been thinking about this all year. This is their one chance to sit and have a good review and really talk to them about the trajectory of their life. And if you don't take that seriously, then you're in the wrong role. You're in the wrong world, quite frankly. How many people get that? Say yes.
Yes.
And so to me, this is an incredibly important exercise. If nothing else I say today, you take this exercise and you embed, you infuse this into every part of your organization, this will make a difference. I've seen engagement scores go up as high as 20%. We've worked with call centers, watching their productivity go up by 300+% in 90 days. Like, this is real stuff. But it doesn't end there, because there's a third brain that we talk about in the gut. 100 million neurons in your gut. To me, this is the most fascinating part. Again, Doc, I don't want to hear from you. 90% of your immune system, no matter what he says later, sits in your gut. There's about 70% of the cortisol. The problem with our country is we're in a chronic state of cortisol. There is so much stress that people don't talk about their stress and trauma. One of the things I love about the Coburns is they are real people. They brought an authenticity to a, no offense, DC, but they brought a lack of pretentiousness to a group and a community, which is why people come far and wide to be in this room with these people. Yes. And so I have recently adopted this language because I think these are the 3 most powerful words on the planet. So I went to 23 funerals by the time I was 23. It's a long story. I'll tell you the real detailed story in the 201. The last one was my mom. Short story, she calls me on Saturday. I'm talking to a group like this when I'm 22 and I don't answer. She calls me later that night. I don't answer. She calls me the next day. I don't answer. I come back from New York on a Monday. I get a call from the police and they found her body dead. So then I show up. I help the police put her body into a body bag. It was not a nice death. There's blood everywhere. Like, this will fuck you up. And for about 5 years, I drank and did drugs. For 5 years, I did anything to soothe myself. Because I know my story is not unique. How many of you have dealt with trauma in your life? But how many of you haven't dealt with it? And I'm still dealing with it. But I know that this thing that Marissa talked about in terms of self-love, self-worth, like the idea of using these 3 words from now on, like the idea that you get to write the script moving forward in your organization, I think is fairly positive. Because in a world when if you mess up, gotcha, and you're not allowed to come back, when someone says something stupid, then they may get casted as a sexist or a racist. And by the way, they might be, but are we going to allow these people to come back?
That's good, yeah.
Or are we going to have a different conversation? To me, it's a different conversation today. By the way, if you've not seen this movie and you've not seen this clip, you want to start your next team meeting with the most amazing 5 minutes of Hugh Jackman, which sounds really strange coming from me, by the way. Because I would never be, as a tough kid coming from the city, like I'm into music musicals now, apparently. But he does an amazing job. He does an amazing job of kind of setting the stage when they were trying to shoot this movie. And he sings this movie from now on, and it will give you chills, if nothing else. Get out your cameras. This is the checklist. If your organization can't answer these, they're going to have the Sunday scaries. If your organization can't answer this person by person, they're going to not have this cult-like culture. Now, by the way, there's a lot of problems with that we'll talk about in the 201. But these are the basics. These are the table stakes. These are the things that make all the difference. But yet, to what Marissa said, we don't do some of the basics sometimes. We're so looking for the data or the tech. And again, we'll talk about that in the 201, but I think that's important. For me, at this point in my life, one of the things that I have found to be incredibly important is this just little mantra, which is, a couple of us were at a recent seminar where there was a woman meditating, and she said, you can't pour from an empty cup. And if that, truer words were never spoken, I could not imagine that, that really hit me between the eyes. So when you think about a better you, this is about you filling yourself up first. Here's the punchline for our boy Matt. The punchline is, you don't have a cult-like culture because you're not inspired enough. You have another gear. You just don't know where it is. And this isn't a Tony Robbins, we're going to walk on fire session. No, I'm actually telling you from a scientific perspective, you've got to find that extra gear. Because when you find that extra gear and you go from Sunday to Monday and you glide into it, your team sees that. That's when you go from a better you, a better us, and a better all. By the way, do not come to my 201 session, as I said, if you don't believe in climate change. I'm not kidding. If you don't think that people are your most important asset, and if you'd like to revote for someone next election and make this world a better place.